All right, welcome to this explainer. If you're an educator stepping into a classroom of 5 to 10-year-olds, you already know the deal. These kids are incredibly energetic, deeply curious, and completely unpredictable. But here's the real secret we're going to unpack today. They are not just mini adults. Young learners are cognitively primed to acquire language skills in a very specific experiential way. Today, we're taking some pretty dense linguistic theory and translating it into practical classroom magic. Consider this your definitive toolkit for teaching English to young learners.
Here is our survival guide for today's explainer. First, we'll go inside the young learner's mind. Next, we'll look at the power of comprehensible input, followed by bringing language to life. Then, we'll dive into learning through games and play, and we'll wrap up with fueling student motivation.
Let's jump right in. Section 1. Inside the young learner's mind.
For the longest time, language teaching relied heavily on the structuralist approach. You know the drill, literally forcing kids to memorize grammar charts and rigid rules before they could even have a conversation. Well, thankfully, modern education has largely shifted to the communicative approach. Instead of obsessing over conjugating verbs, it focuses on meaning and putting learners in real-life situations. Just think about how a child learns their mother tongue. It's informal, it relies heavily on context, and it's driven completely by a desire to successfully communicate rather than worrying about perfect syntax from day one.
And you know, this shift isn't just a passing trend. As researcher Stephen Krashen points out, there is a direct bridge from applied linguistics right into teaching practice. Second language acquisition theory, hard research, and the intuitive ideas of experienced teachers all feed directly into what we do every day. So rest assured, these methods are deeply backed by scientific research on how the human brain naturally acquires language.
Moving right along to Section 2, the power of comprehensible input.
Okay, so Stephen Krashen's absolute golden rule of language acquisition is I+1. The I just represents your learner's current linguistic competence. The +1 means we expose them to language that is just slightly beyond that current level. We want to gently challenge them without totally overwhelming them. The absolute crucial point here is that real language acquisition develops slowly. We have to deliver this input in a low-anxiety situation, and we should never, ever force early production. Let your students speak when they're actually ready. Forcing it only creates stress, and a stressed brain isn't learning.
But look, theory is one thing. As a teacher, staring down a packed lesson plan, you're probably asking yourself, okay, but how do I actually apply this I+1 concept on a random Tuesday morning, especially if I don't have a ton of resources?
The answer lies in this fantastic piece of advice from researcher Roger Brown. Believe that your child can understand more than he or she can say, and seek, above all, to communicate. Think about it. If a student points at a ball, you don't demand a full, grammatically flawless sentence. You just smile and say, yes, the red ball. By focusing on genuine communication, you unconsciously adjust your language to hit that I+1 sweet spot. You honestly don't need a perfectly calibrated grammatical syllabus every single second. What you need is a genuine desire to connect and communicate a message.
That brings us to Section 3, bringing language to life.
When you're delivering all that comprehensible input, non-linguistic clues are literally your best friends. In the classroom, we call this utilizing the here and now. This means bringing in realia, using actual physical objects like a real apple or a hat to make the lesson tangible. It means using rich, vibrant visuals. It includes total physical response, or TPR, where you use big, exaggerated gestures, literally jumping or running in place to anchor new vocabulary right into their muscle memory. And it also includes bringing in authentic, culturally rich audio like simple songs and chants.
And hey, we can absolutely take the here and now into the digital age. Augmented reality tools are becoming unbelievable assets for ESL teachers. Apps like Quiver Vision take a simple coloring page and bring it to life in 3D right on a tablet, or JigSpace, which projects complex scientific or historical concepts right into the physical classroom space. These tools provide a multi-sensory experience that just deeply, deeply boosts classroom engagement and connection.
Let's keep the momentum going with Section 4, learning through games and play.
We often think of games as just a fun little break, but there is some heavy psychological science behind gamification. Playing a simple game of Simon Says actually uses B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. You're providing positive reinforcement the second they get the action right. At the exact same time, it taps into Lev Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. It provides an adaptive challenge that pushes a student just enough to internalize those new verbs. So yeah, play is serious science. But to make it really work, you need some structure. Here is your literal checklist for implementing games without ever losing sight of your curriculum. Number 1, always set specific language goals.
The game has to serve the linguistics, not the other way around. 2. Match the complexity to your learner's actual ability. 3. Provide immediate feedback. 4. Use digital platforms like Kahoot or Quizlet to track student progress and retention. And finally, number 5, use these games as formative assessments. Just listen to the kids play, note their errors, and tailor your future instruction to support those weak spots.
And finally, Section 5, Fueling Student Motivation. Motivation is the true engine of second language acquisition, and it basically relies on two main drivers. On one side, we have intrinsic joy, making the learning process inherently fun by using games, authentic materials, and music. But we absolutely have to balance this with extrinsic goals, because even for young learners, it's incredibly powerful to gently connect what they are learning today to their future, whether that's global travel, communicating across borders, or their eventual career success.
So a really crucial concept here is something researchers call building the ideal L2 self. As a teacher, you want to help young learners vividly visualize their future success as fluent English speakers. How do you do that? By setting up role-play scenarios in the classroom. Have them pretend to travel abroad, order food in a restaurant, or give a big presentation. When a young learner can physically act out and visualize their successful future self, their motivation to push through the tricky parts of language learning absolutely skyrockets.
Which brings us to our final thought. You've seen the science, you understand the absolute need for comprehensible input, and now you've got a toolkit full of physical objects, augmented reality, and structured games. But listen, none of these tools work without you. You have the power to build that low-anxiety, highly effective learning environment. So, as the ultimate orchestrator of this experience, how will you transform your classroom tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer,